YouTube fam, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Tina and I make videos on lifestyle, home, and DIY projects every single week. This week I've really been in the mood to paint, so as you guys saw from the previous video, we made a portrait painting and a lot of you guys love that project. So I wanted to show some other project ideas that you can create at home with materials that you already have. So in today's video we are creating some trendy art prints, and you guys can do this with whatever material that you guys would like. Creating your own artwork is such a great way to refresh your space, especially for the new year. And I love sharing DIY prints because you can really customize it to whatever color palette that you would like, and that way it can fit perfectly in your space. And I think you guys will really like the techniques and the hacks that I show off in this video, so I'm excited to show you guys that. Before jumping into the projects, I want to talk about today's video sponsor, Skillshare. As you guys may or may not know, I've been taking their classes for the past couple of months, and if you haven't tried out Skillshare before, now is the perfect time, especially with the new year. You can learn so many new skills. This year I'm challenging myself to learn even more when it comes to creating DIYs and growing my channel, and the class I'm taking this month is called Make Creativity Your Career. 6 exercises to create a successful side project with Andy J Pizza, and I've been really loving it. It's just what I needed to jumpstart my year, and as you guys may already know, YouTube is my side hustle, and I know a lot of you out there are also in the same boat with a creative side hustle, or maybe you want to turn your creative passion into a side hustle, and this class and so many other classes on Skillshare help you do just that. Skillshare constantly updates the library with new classes, so you're always learning something new every month, and I love that it's broken into easy to navigate sections so you can choose to learn on your own time. Their premium membership is less than $10 a month with an annual subscription, so you can explore all their classes at an affordable price. So if you guys are interested in checking out Skillshare, definitely click on the link down below. The first 1,000 people will get a free trial of their premium membership. All the info will be linked down below, as well as a few of my favorite classes that I've taken so far. Alright, so without further ado, let's jump into the first DIY. Hello from VoiceOver Tina. For this first project, I'm using 2 smaller canvases from Dollar Tree. I've used these before and I've had these ones sitting around for a while, and honestly, for $1, they're not too bad. I'm painting both canvases in white acrylic paint, and this is just to cover the off-white color that the canvas is to begin with, and I did 2 coats of that. Next, I'm going to mix up my acrylic paints, and taking a look at my sketches, I'm doing about 4 different colors. One of the colors is white and another color is going to be for the plant, and then I'm using 3 colors for the organic shapes that you see here. And my biggest tip when it comes to custom mixing your colors is to make a lot of it, and this is just because if you run out of that paint color, it's going to be a lot harder to mix the paint again to make the perfect match, so I always recommend to make more just in case. I also recommend to use something like a palette knife to mix your colors together, especially if you're mixing multiple paints, and this just helps prevent any color streaking on your paintbrush. Palette knives are pretty affordable and a must-have in any DIY kit. So for my color palette, I'm creating a muted green color, a yellowy orange, and a rust color, and you'll see that I also mix a light salmony pink, but I ended up not using it. Okay, so my color palette is looking pretty cute. So next I'm going to lightly sketch in my design in pencil, and I'm drawing these 3 blob shapes that kind of come off the canvas, and I'm making these look super organic. I'm then also going to draw in some curvy lines just to represent my vining leaves. So I'm painting in my blob shapes with my color palette, and this took about 2 to 3 coats for each of the shapes. And I also paint on the edges of the canvas, and I think it makes it look a little bit more put together, especially since these canvases are a little bit on the cheaper side. Painting the sides really cleans it up. For the other canvas, I'm taking one of the colors from my color palette and I'm painting a blob right in the middle. And as you can see, I didn't take my own advice and I actually ran out of that rust color, so I had to mix some more and I tried to match it as close as possible. So if you also run into this issue, don't worry, all you need to do is to mix some more of that color and then just paint it right on top of the previous color, and I'm also going to make sure that I go back into the first canvas and use this new color as well. And this ensures the canvases match perfectly and that there's no discrepancies in the color. Alright, now that everything's dry, I'm going to use my white paint and I'm gonna start painting in my plants. And for this part, I'm using a thin flat brush, and this is gonna help make the weight of the line even throughout. And you'll see that I'm painting the stem in first, and I'm just gonna paint that right to the end of the blob shape. Then with a darker color, I'm going to continue that line, and this creates a negative line effect. Any part that touches the white background is going to be in this darker green color, and then anything that touches the colored blobs is going to be in white. I'm painting my leaves with that same exact technique, and I think it looks so cool and adds so much interest to this piece. I would recommend painting the white with at least 2 coats to make sure that it's opaque, and I'm going to do the same exact thing with the second piece. So the inside of the colored shape is going to be white, and then the outside of it in the negative space is going to be in that dark green color. For a little more interest, feel free to add in any other design elements. I would recommend painting in some little dots or lines, and I think this adds a little whimsical touch. So as I'm filling out the rest of the leaf, you can see that I'm drawing a line first, and then I'm going to draw the rest of the leaf by doing a little bit of an outline. And having a sketch here is going to be really helpful for you. I kind of freehanded this just because I draw leaves all the time, so I'm really used to making these shapes. And essentially you're drawing teardrop shapes for the leaves, and this honestly gets easier the more you paint them. If you have 2 smaller canvases laying around like I do, try making a pair of paintings. Making a diptych like this one just helps make the artwork look larger and more put together. And if you want to, you could totally make the second painting look a lot more similar to the first one. And I think that would look just as great. Creating 2 paintings really just makes it look a lot more expensive than it is. And I'm really happy for what we could create with just $8 canvases. This piece was so easy and fun to make, and I really love this design. I think it would look so cute on a wall tapestry, a plant pot, or anything else that you'd like. This abstract plant design adds so much color to a space, but also still feels very modern and grown up. You can choose just to make one or both canvases as part of a gallery wall, but I really hope this inspires you to try out this trendy design. This next project is very retro inspired, and I'm starting by drawing a butterfly. I'm using this little hack to help trace out the image. So if you don't have a light box, you can place your paper over a tablet, a laptop, or a computer screen, and you can use the light from the screen as a light box. So what I did was take my watercolor paper and place it right on top of my iPad, and then I lowered my light so that you could see it more clearly. And you can see that I'm using a pencil to trace it, and this is a great little hack to sketch everything out. Butterflies have been very trendy lately in fashion and design, so this clip art that I found online is perfect, and I will link it down below if you would like it to use for your project. Otherwise, this project can be done with any imagery that you'd like. Now that everything's traced out, I'm just gonna go ahead and work on my background, and I'm using this old watercolor palette that I've probably had for a decade now, but I still love it, and if I can find it, I will link it. But you'll see that this palette has some really bright colors, and I'm first gonna do a wet on wet technique by wetting the paper with some water. Then I'm loading my brush up with some water and watercolor, and I'm just gonna dab my brush with the color onto the paper, and it creates such a cool effect. Using this technique makes blending 2 colors together quite nice, and I'm using some bright pinks, oranges, reds, and some yellow colors. I think these make such a beautiful retro color palette, but of course you can use whatever color palette that suits your style. And I'm also leaving the watercolor quite wet, so if any spots start drying up, feel free to just add more water and color to that area. Now that the page is filled up, I'm going to take a piece of plastic from some packaging, and I'm just going to crinkle that up with my hands. You could also use saran wrap for this part, but I don't have any, so I'm just repurposing some trash for this step. Now I'm placing that right on top of the wet watercolor, and you'll see that the paint starts to cling onto the texture that we've created, and it makes this really cool pattern. And if you notice any spots are looking a little bit dry, you can go ahead and just lift it back up and add more color. I repeated this step a couple of times, and once I was happy with it, I just let it sit there and dry. I came back to it about an hour later, and here's how it looked once I removed the plastic. It left such a cool pattern, and I love how the colors blend together. Now I'm going to work on the foreground, so I'm painting the inside of my butterfly with a light wash of pink. And once that was dry, I went ahead and used a raw sienna color for the butterfly. and you'll see that I'm just outlining the outside and all the spots first. Then I went ahead and filled everything in, and this took me about 2 coats of paint. I think this gave it a bit more of a retro look rather than using black paint, but of course you can use any color for this entire project to make it your own. One of my goals for these videos is not necessarily to share projects that you need to copy, but to share tips, tricks, and ideas to inspire you to create your own pieces. So I hope that you learn something new in each one of my DIY videos, even if it's a small hack or technique that you can use in future projects. After the paint dried, I traced out a circle with this lid, and then I'm just using some scissors to cut it out. Next, I'm adding Mod Podge to glue the circle to another piece of paper, and I think that the circle shape against the white background really gives it a cleaner, modern look. And after that's good to go, I'm going to pop that into a frame and we're done. This piece was so fun to create. I really love the tie-dye watercolor effect, and it's even better that we were able to use household items to create this look. The pairing of the warm tones with the raw sienna color just adds a cool retro vibe to the piece, and I think this would be such a fun addition to any gallery wall for the springtime. So what do you guys think about those projects? Let me know in the comment section. I would love to hear your feedback. Painting for me is another one of those things that is super therapeutic, and I honestly can do it for hours. So I did notice that in my previous video, a few people said that I made the projects look too easy and that they wouldn't be able to do it, so I want to give a few words of encouragement, and that is just to adjust projects to your skill level and always practice. Obviously, with the magic of editing and time lapses and jump cuts, it just makes everything look a lot easier, especially when you're watching DIY projects. But trust me when I say that taking things slow and practicing is really going to help you in the long run in building up your skills. So if there are any projects that you see that you feel a little bit intimidated to try out, I would say to just go for it and adjust the project to what you're comfortable with doing. I promise you that it will be so worth it, and if you ever need any tips, definitely DM me on Instagram. I'm more than happy to help. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below for new videos every single week. Follow me on Instagram if you haven't already. I love interacting with you guys on there, and I post every single day. Huge thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. Don't forget to check them out down below for a free trial of their premium membership. And that is it for today's video. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Stay inspired, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!